the head of the British Army, General Sir Patrick Sanders, has warned us all that the public could be called up to fight if the UK came under attack because the country's military, the official military, is way too small to deal with a real war.
With the prospect.
Yes.
So, in an effort to help protect Britain, should we bring back national service? Would you do your bit and sign up? Former Royal Marine Commander Craig Ainsworth says we'd end up with unskilled soldiers. He'd rather it didn't happen. But former Apprentice star Ryan Mark Parsons said he'd love to do his bit. Craig, let's start with you, because you've been in the Marines, you have been part of our armed services. Why do you think this is a bad idea?
Firstly, I think the country offers nothing to the people that be asking to go to war. I think that we should spend our time building the communities to build that national pride where people want to go to war. The government spent the last few years with massive pay cuts and funding to the military, so they've left in droves, which has left us in this situation now. And now they've come back to the working class and asking us to do our bit again. Don't get me wrong, if we had the situation where Nazis were knocking on the door at the English Channel again, absolutely everyone needs to do their bit. But right now, I think that we need to leave it for people to actually make the choice and serve their nation proudly and honourably.
I think he is sort of saying, isn't he, that, look, in a couple of years, our numbers could be down to 70,000, you know, for our British military, and that in no way would suffice should the Russians decide to take their war with Ukraine into Europe and beyond. So the question is, I suppose, that do you think that the British public, men and women, have the right mindset in this country, in the way that, actually, in all seriousness, we've seen Ukrainian citizens have to take up arms to protect their country? Do you think we've got the resilience and the desire here? Because we've lived very safe and cushy lives, actually.
Absolutely. We're very much spoilt in the West, aren't we? But the one thing I'd say is I think that our youth would surprise us if it came to it. I know that people are always looking for an opportunity to prove themselves, especially in the world in which we live at the moment. And I think that we would, if the time came and we had our backs against the wall, there's no option but to step up and fight. But I think forcing people to go and do such a thing is a terrible idea.
Right,
so
Mark,
I think it's a thin line.
You would actually be keen to do your bit. You'd like to show everybody that you're not just a lazy TikToker and a YouTuber, and actually you've got something to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people in my generation would definitely be up for it. I think it's a great idea. I think national service should come back. And I think it should be reminiscent to peacetime national service in 1949, where we were conscripting 17 to 21-year-olds, and they were serving 18 months in the armed services. Even look at Sweden. They've got the defence service out there. I think we should look to countries like Sweden as an example. I'm done with whiny young people that are so weak and pathetic nowadays. They're so woke. They're so snowflakey. They need to step up, and I would like to be an example of that. I
understand what you're saying there now, but you have to also think as well, when's the last time that Sweden was invading countries on the scale that we do, or the US?
But
they're far less likely. If you're talking about a national, if you're talking about securing our borders, again, absolutely. But if we're talking about conscripting people to send off to Russia or miles from home, it's a totally different thing.
There's a resurgent threat. There's an existential threat in Europe. We've got the likes of Russia, communist and fascist powers in North Korea and China. We need to be prepared. And it's like General Sanders said.
Have you ever done anything in the past? Have you ever done any sort of
CCF?
We're not talking about a summer camp, we're talking about real war here. It's a totally different thing. It's not a summer camp to build confidence or whatever. If people are looking for the opportunity to join and fight for the country, they're desperate for people right now. We can go after the show straight down to the careers office.
Would you apply now to the army as it is?
I wouldn't apply now if I had a choice. But
why not? Why not?
But when we're talking about conscription, which
national
is different...
service,
national service, which is different to a prerogative. But if I were given a choice, I'm doing what I'm doing now. But if I had to, then absolutely I would. And as General Sanders said, I just said at the end, regular armies start wars, citizen armies win wars.
This is the poll that we've been running. 36% of you said yes, you would support it. 64% with Craig said no, we don't think it's a good idea. Thank you both for joining us this morning.
And thank you for your service.
Debate. Yeah,
thank you very much.
Protecting the country.
Thanks for having us.